Happy day 42. And if you pay attention to my surroundings as we have these daily chats, you probably already honed in on what's sitting to my side here. And that's what I want to talk about. It's interesting, one of the common denominators between most successful executives or entrepreneurs is that they are voracious readers. And when you look at executives and entrepreneurs who are having success versus entry-level or mid-level managers or leaders, there's a stark difference in this mindset. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to all but force a manager or a leader to read a book. Why read a book? Because ultimately, your level of success and your ability to lift and develop other people is completely dependent on your continuing to learn. You know, they say knowledge is power, but I've also heard it said applied knowledge is power. And take it a step further. You have to seek the knowledge to even have an opportunity at the power. Warren Buffett reads about 5 to 6 hours a day. He's been quoted as saying he reads about 6 newspapers a day on top of the books that he reads. He attributes that accumulation of knowledge greatly into his success. Now, I live in Texas, so who doesn't love Mark Cuban at that point? Mark Cuban's the same way. Mark Cuban has written in his blog that he reads no less than 3 hours a day. And there was an author who wrote a book, his name was Tom Corley. He did a study on the richest people and poor people. And it was like a couple hundred really rich people by money, if you will. And I think it was like 120 some poverty level poor people, and looked at the differences. And he found kind of the same thing. Fundamentally, those that were successful from the standpoint of money made it important to read, to grow their intellect, to understand more than what they knew yesterday or before they decided to pick up a book. So John Maxwell, another piece with this, John C. Maxwell, an incredible leadership developer, he has one of his laws is considered the law of the lid. And what the law of the lid means is that your team, if a lid number, right, which means your top, which closes you off, can only be from 1 to 10. And if you, as the leader in your environment, are an 8, your people can only ever get to 8, right? Law of the lid. Now, you could question that, but I've seen this. If ultimately this leader at a lid of 8 manages to bring somebody in that's actually an 8 or higher, they don't stay. So why don't you read? Again, the bulk of people who are watching this probably don't like to read. So make it something you can appreciate. If you don't like to read, like the benefits that it can bring you, right? Because as a leader, if you're not continuing to learn, you're limiting what your team can do too. I remember there was a time I didn't like to read. I get it. I found it, my mind would wander, it would distract. And what I had to do though is I had to force myself to at least start reading, let's call it a chapter a day. When I started going into additional continuing education, which had nothing to do with what I did professionally, I found professionally my lid was lifting because I was gaining knowledge. You know, some might say, well, I went to college and got my college degree. It doesn't stop there, guys. Whether you do or don't have a college degree, your ability to maintain and grow additional success in people is completely dependent on your continued focus on learning, and most of that's going to happen through reading. You know, Henry Ford, who we all know who Henry Ford is. If you don't, I'm so sorry. He's the one who invented the car, right? From a standpoint of, I think it was the Model T. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a car person. But if you've ever read Think Rich, Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Wow, that was why'd that leave my head? I've read that book. He talks about how Henry Ford never even finished kind of a grade school education. Yet he was one of the most successful, wealthiest people of his time. So keep that in mind. Don't think just if you didn't go to college, you cannot have success or gain knowledge. So these are some of the books that I've read or I'm reading. So I want to show that because there is some incredible reading in here that may not be, let's say, on the top 10 list of books to read, but there's exceptional knowledge. These are written by people who are experts in their fields, people who've gained knowledge through their own failures, and you can take a lot away from it. A few of these books I've mentioned before in our chats. So, guys, remember, you have to go after knowledge in order to have an opportunity at that power. And if you limit your learning, you limit everybody you lead. Have a great day.